It was finally left to the Supreme Court to end the West Bengal slugfest with a judgment that both sides are hailing as a victory. The Supreme Court today directed Kolkata Police Commissioner Rajiv Kumar to appear before the CBI, but in Shillong, Meghalaya, that is neutral territory. It also barred the CBI from any coercive steps against Rajiv Kumar, including arrest. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata has called the Supreme Court decision a victory and called off her dharna with a promise to take up the issue again next week. So is this just a pause in the battle for Bengal? What are the national implications politically, and who really won in the Supreme Court today? To speak more on this, I'm joined now by a senior Supreme Court advocate Dushyant Dave, who's also assistant professor of Ashok University, Nilanjan Sarkar. I'm going to speak in a bit with Nalin Kohli, BJP spokesperson and lawyer as well. Thank you to all of you for joining us today. Mr. Dave, I want to get your take on the legal angle of this today, because that seems to be also the reason that Mamata Banerjee finally called off a dharna, which she wanted to continue till the end of this week. Both sides are hailing it as their victory, morally and otherwise. What do you make of it?
Well, I think the Supreme Court's order today is an extremely wise order. It has really struck a very fine balance. It has knocked, some sense into both the central government and the government of West Bengal. And it has really, ensured that ultimately rule of law, prevails. The CBI cannot act arbitrarily by, going and in the fashion that it did. And the Commissioner of Police cannot stay away from giving his statement which CBI wants. But most important, the allegations that the Commissioner of Police had tempered with the evidence which were being talked about on, in the media in last 48 hours, particularly by the honorable ministers of the government and others. Those have been prima facie found to be completely absent, and that is precisely the reason why the Supreme Court has said that no coercive action will be taken against the Commissioner of Police so long as he cooperates in recording his statement. So I think the Supreme Court has really passed an order which I think subserves the federalism that our Constitution talks about. Mr.
Dave, there's also a direction to the West Bengal Chief Secretary and other functionaries to come back on the contempt plea that was put in. Do you think that that is going to be a stumbling block ahead?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Supreme Court had to, issue notice on it because, there is an allegation that the state did not cooperate. To that extent, Supreme Court would like to be satisfied, and I have no doubt that the state of West Bengal will be able to ultimately, satisfy the Supreme Court that it was not acting maliciously and that it had acted in accordance with law. Particularly because, the High Court of Calcutta is in scene of the matter, and it has really passed certain orders protecting certain police officers, etc., etc. I think contempt is now an issue which will be taken up in the due course, and I don't see much of a problem in that for anybody.
Nilanjan, I want to come to you on the larger point which has sort of moved the political fight over this, which is the allegation of an attack on federalism by the Modi government over the last 5 years, and the misuse of the CBI. Now, this is a double-edged sword because you could say that every action taken against a politician is a misuse of the CBI, but then again, there may be genuine cases that need to be followed up by the investigative agencies, and the people they're investigating may be politicians as well.
Right. I mean, what I would say is that I think we're talking a lot about the loss of credibility of the CBI, but it's not obvious that the CBI ever had that kind of huge credibility to begin with. When we sort of look back in time, we have seen political manipulation of the CBI, and I think recent events has shown a lot of political manipulation of the CBI. What has changed, I think, from this action, though, is that when the CBI went into West Bengal, it sort of went in with some kind of a secret raid. It said that the police commissioner was absconding, but he was actually at home. The CBI, I think, to the nation as a whole, looked somewhat incompetent. And that, I think, is something new. And that is a part of some kind of political manufacturing. I think that Modi took a gamble on the CBI, and it sort of didn't pan out. Now, in terms of the larger question of federalism and what this says about that, I think there's an open question as to why a politician, a prime minister, or a ruling government would want to use the CBI in this way. And one sort of abstract way of thinking about when you protect a central institution is when you have a long-term view, right? So if I want to destroy a political institution now and go after political opponents, it is because I believe that in the future, that institution cannot be used against me. Or if I lose, that's it. And I think putting this in the context of the fact that not only is Modi facing a lot of challenge from opposition parties, but also within his own party, right, from Gadkari, and also we know that there's been a lot of dissension within the BJP. I think that is part of the reason why you're seeing this version of the BJP act so aggressively with its state institutions.
Nilanjan, elaborate on that point a little more. Are you saying that there is an attempt to destroy institutions completely, so that even if governments change, and whenever governments change, there is no backlash? Could you explain that point a little bit more?
So here's one way of thinking, right? If I don't believe that I have a long-term view, then it is in my best interest to try to stay in power today at all costs, right? If, however, I'm in a political system in which there's regular political alternation, which is to say that other parties win, I win again in the future, and both actors broadly believe in sort of keeping this kind of system alive, then there's less of an incentive to try to use the political institutions that exist, or the state institutions that exist, for narrow political or electoral purposes. If, however, I believe that if I lose this time, which is, I think, a concern that the Modi government has recently come to, right, that it may be over for me, not because the BJP may not win in 2019, but even if it does, the Modi and Amit Shah may face serious challenges within the party. Then there's a greater incentive to use state institutions to be able to stay in power and to sort of challenge political opponents at all costs from today.
Okay, we've seen some of that playing out, that narrative playing out over the last few months, and I actually want to take that question to Mr. Dave as well, because of course opposition parties say they're being unfairly targeted, and there has been an unusually high number of CBI and ED action against political opponents of the BJP. But could this be a coincidence? Because there may be actual evidence that this investigative agency is working on, and there may be a real case for this action as well. For example, in the West Bengal case, there is no question that the Sarda chit fund scam hurt lakhs of people. There was an SIT which didn't seem to get to the base of the powerful politicians aiding and abetting. The Supreme Court saw it fit to hand it over to the CBI. So one has to put all of that in context as well, isn't it? Yes, Mr. Dave.
You're asking me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Now, let me tell you one thing. It's a matter of common knowledge that CBI has lost its independence long time ago. And likewise, most institutions which are functioning in the government have really ceased to be independent, fiercely independent, which is what is expected of them. So it's nothing new. I mean, I just don't blame the BJP government for that. The Congress government was equally responsible for it, and they have to take the blame for that. But having said that, I will also say one thing, that yes, Shraddha is a big scam and it should be investigated. People must be brought to books, and the innocent investors must be compensated somehow, which is really not going to be possible. It's not happened ever in this country. But there were a large number of such scams in the cooperative banks in Gujarat while Sri Modi ji was the chief minister. And all those, banks, people, many of them were BJP, BJP members. Some of them really contested on BJP seats as members of parliament. They were elected, and nothing has been done so far as those, frauds are concerned. And thousands of investors in Gujarat have really lost, and the whole cooperative sector has been under virtual strain, because in Gujarat cooperative movement was highly successful initially. Likewise, I say, for example, cases like Sohrabuddin, where again Supreme Court by two very detailed judgment directed investigation by CBI into Sohrabuddin and Prajapati's killings and Kausarbi's killing, and the trial court of course has now found everybody not guilty, but the CBI must file appeal. And CBI is not even willing to file appeal in those serious cases where Supreme Court found that these cases were clear cases of fake encounters by the Gujarat police. And Shri Amit Shah was the Home Minister, and Shri Modi ji was the Home Minister in charge. So I think, this objectivity on the part of CBI has been lost long time ago, and it is continuing to lose. I don't think it will ever come back.
I want to welcome Nalin Kohli to the show. Nalin has joined us a bit late, but hopefully, I'd be able to catch you up with what everyone has been saying so far. The key question we've started with,
No,
Nalin.
I heard what Mr. Dave said from the beginning.
Oh, that's great. That's great. The key question we're starting with is, both sides today are claiming victory after the Supreme Court order. But the fact is that the Supreme Court has also debarred the CBI from any coercive steps against Rajiv Kumar, including arrest. Do you think that also casts a question about the CBI's action last Sunday evening?
Now, my answer is going to be in two parts. The first part will be to what this show was supposed to be, which is on West Bengal, and the second part is to what Mr. Dave was saying, my senior colleague at the bar, in terms of Gujarat, and they both merit an answer separately. First, let's come down to West Bengal. On West Bengal, why is the CBI investigating the Narada Sharda scam? Because the Honorable Supreme Court so decided in 2014 May, before the Narendra Modi ji governments came into office. Continued, what was the final order? It called upon it while praising the work of the SIT. It also said that the SIT and the Kolkata police will help and assist and ensure that the CBI is able to investigate this completely. What has happened since then? There has been a stalling by the West Bengal government. Rajiv Kumar, who is an officer and should be just like any other officer, when he was heading the SIT, and if he is praised for his work there, inexplicably does not want to cooperate with the CBI and handing over all material to the CBI so that the scam can reach its logical conclusion. So eventually he sent a notice under section 160, which is to join the probe as a witness. He sent a second one, a third one after a period of time. He's not cooperating. So why? The question is there that why should the CBI not be assisted in ensuring that the truth comes out? And what you then have is the Chief Minister coming down on a dharna for this officer. Unprecedented. Now, the question to be asked of that is, why is the Chief Minister there to protect an officer who's not cooperating with the CBI, which is doing so on the direction of the Honorable Supreme Court? It obviously smells that a can of worms is waiting to be opened there. And if they make charges against those who have joined the BJP, various people, all of them were under investigation. The furtherance of an investigation will be dependent on all the case material and evidence being with the CBI, which the Trinamool Congress government has prevented.
Sure, but
they call this a victory. What has happened in today's order?
Yes.
The Supreme Court has said join and help the CBI, and therefore if this is a victory, it's a new definition of victory. It's not even a Pyrrhic victory. It's a new definition of victory that is unknown to either in law or in political parlance or otherwise.
No,
the second part of what I'd like to speak is on what Mr. Dave spoke about Gujarat.
No, but before you come to Gujarat,
because there were serious allegations against my party president and the Honorable Prime Minister.
Okay, fine. Before you come to Gujarat, Pat, on the point of victory, and perhaps that part of the show is something which I don't know if you heard that or not. But the fact that the Supreme Court says that meet the CBI and make yourself available for any part of the investigation in Shillong, so neutral territory. The fact that the Supreme Court bars the CBI from any coercive action, why not in Kolkata then? Why not in Kolkata then? Does that not also raise questions over the CBI's action last Sunday evening?
No, it doesn't raise. I don't think you can read an order into something that wasn't said. If you wish to know, then I was in court. I'm sure Mr. Dave must have been in court. The Honorable Chief Justice of India also made an observation or a comment, which is not part of the order, pointing out to the West Bengal government, you assume too much. Where was this whole thing about the arrest of Rajiv Kumar? It was a manufactured thing, constantly raised, oh, he's going to be arrested, oh, he's going to be arrested. Where was there? Was there an arrest warrant? I mean, it wasn't done. A Section 197 provision is there for officers in terms of prosecution. That can't be initiated. You can't do it unless you follow the due process. These were all creations of hype by the Trinamool Congress. With regard to Shillong, that's where it is located. For the eastern zone, the CBI's office is in Shillong. It's not about neutral zone or non-neutral zone. Okay. This is not some kind of, a tango. This is an investigation. It has to be done by the agency where it is located. So I am unable to understand what kind of spin are the Trinamool Congress people in their desperation trying to create. Somehow to say, no, this is not a defeat. This is not a defeat or a victory. It is the investigation proceeding as it should.
Okay, I want Mr. Dave to respond. And yes, Mr. Kohli, I will give you an opportunity to respond to the remarks Mr. Dave made about Gujarat and Mr. Modi's tenure as Chief Minister there. But Mr. Dave, to respond to the part that this is essentially, Rajiv Kumar did not want to appear before the CBI and now he has to. And which is perhaps why Mamata Banerjee has had to close down her dharna 2 days or 3 days before she was meant to.
Well, I don't hold any brief for Trinamool Congress or Rajiv Kumar. If they are guilty, then they have to be hanged. I have no doubt about that. Question is not that. Question is that the SIT handed over the investigation to CBI 4 years ago, pursuant to Supreme Court's judgment. Now, what has the CBI been doing for 4 years? If SIT's head had withheld material or evidence and tampered with it, then for last 4 years they should have done something about it. You can't go on a Sunday evening. It's like this midnight operation that they had for removing Alok Verma. Why does this government like this evening, night operations against, officers who are highly placed officers? I mean, I'm not saying that he is guilty or not. That law will prove. But the way in which they did, frankly, it raises very serious doubts in mind of a common man as to why CBI would do this after 4.5 years, just when the elections are around the corner. So I think, it does send an extremely wrong message, and I feel that this could have been very much better handled by the CBI itself rather than the way they handled it. I think it has sent a wrong message for the government, and sooner the government realizes it, I hope it is better.
Mr. Kohli, the problem with the CBI's reputation, not just in this government, but even the previous ones, are that when people in government or from the ruling party say that the CBI acts independently and we have nothing to do with it, very few people believe those statements. That is an issue. And when action comes on the eve of an election 4.5 years after the case was handed over, these questions will be raised.
It's okay, it's a democracy. People are entitled to raise questions. They are entitled to look for conspiracy theories even if none exist. Who can stop that? That's what makes up a democracy, a diverse set of views and a diverse set of views that may not necessarily match. But the end of the day is the fundamental questions have to be answered. These questions are mere digressions. I must also point out a few things. Mr. Dave was saying late night operation. The team of 25 people from the CBI officers reached Mr. Rajiv Kumar's place in the afternoon. It was in late afternoon, it was in the night. It is the Chief Minister who chose to go to his place later in the night, somewhere around 9 or 10 p.m. I think, to start her dharna. So it's what also must be pointed out that it is unprecedented that the CBI officers were literally herded into a bus. A woman was manhandled, pushed around. Their mobile phones were taken away. The joint director there, his house was geared out by police officers wanting to forcibly come. His wife was there. His daughter was there. It's only when an English news channel finally was able to speak with him and he said that yes, he's been told that the Supreme Court is being approached even tonight in this crisis situation, that something suddenly happened and the CBI officers were released from Park Street Police Station and the people who were at his home started withdrawing. So the facts are the facts. They were reported by the media, not me, you or anyone else. It was shown by the media. Those visuals of what was happening was clearly seen. So therefore, at the end of the day, if there is a constitutional machinery breakdown, at that time the conspiracy theories are mere deflections. The breakdown has to be seen and the Supreme Court has stepped in. That order will apply to everybody and that's how it is always meant to be.
Okay. Mr. Kohli, I want to give you an opportunity to respond to the comments Mr. Dave has made. He's had to move to another engagement. But since he did make these comments on the show, I think it's only fair that you have an opportunity to respond to this.
Thank you very much, Tamanna. Just to make it clear that for some sets of individuals, their whole life begins and ends with Gujarat. And the center point of their focus has always been Narendra Modi and Amit Shah. No matter what happens, the world is round. You can stand at the North Pole and still come around and bring a point on Gujarat. So on Gujarat, when it comes to raising these allegations, if the debate is to be on the cooperative banks of Gujarat, certainly all those facts can become and all these agendas can be withdrawn. But let's come down to the allegations on Sohrabuddin or on others. Who was Ishrat Jahan? Who made a false affidavit and filed it under the UPA? Did not the LET go out there and immediately say that she's one of our girls? Why did the Congress party or others do so? With regard to all of these cases, haven't they gone up to the Supreme Court? Hasn't the Supreme Court again and again gone through these petitions and passed orders, some of them strictures against the lawyers also who have come in there? So an agenda on the Gujarat riot, there is a whole machinery that has worked again and again to create an agenda against Modi and against Amit Shah. That agenda they are entitled to run. That's maybe their right. But it has to be founded on some facts. And finally, it was Chief Minister Modi who stood before and went and allowed himself to be interrogated for 9 hours by an SIT. None of the other people who raised the questions against Mr. Modi have ever done so or succumbed to an investigation. They all run for bail immediately. They all come in and delay the process. Okay. And the people who raise the maximum questions on Mr. Modi politically are the people who are either in jail and out on bail or are on bail and are scared that they will one day have to go to jail.
All right. I want to come to a broader picture, Nilanjan, and, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to come to this before. The broader political picture of what is happening in West Bengal. So Mamata Banerjee sort of hit the pause button. She's saying she's going to take this up next week. But we saw a massive show of strength around her from other opposition leaders. Chandrababu Naidu was there, the DMK was represented, Tejasvi Yadav, etc. A lot of leaders were there. Why do you think this battle for Bengal has become so significant in the larger national picture?
I mean, I actually don't think it was intended. I think essentially what happened is that the CBI was called in and this sort of blew up. It became a bigger national issue, and Mamata became a more national leader than perhaps was initially intended. I think that the average Indian still very much saw Mamata as a regional leader, a strong regional leader, and who was trying to put together this coalition of opposition parties. Now, I don't know, after this, we'll have to look at what public sentiment looks like. Has she sort of ascended from just being purely a regional leader to somebody in Uttar Pradesh, somebody in Gujarat, somebody in Madhya Pradesh also kind of looks to as an opposition leader? So I think part of this has gotten bigger than the government intended, partially because of a miscalculation. I don't think that this sort of CBI thing, I don't think that some of the advertising around not being able to land a helicopter in West Bengal was intended to have this kind of effect. Mamata is a seasoned political veteran, right? And she sort of has figured out how to spin this kind of language into a larger national narrative that is bringing together opposition parties. Whether it will work or not is it's an open question. There's still many months until the election.
Nalan Kohli, for the BJP, it has definitely been a misstep in that sense. Whatever maybe the arguments that you're presenting today, that the CBI was acting on its own and Mamata Banerjee was, protecting an allegedly, perhaps an official, a police officer who has tried to hide evidence, and the Supreme Court's come in, the law will take its course. But for the BJP, you have managed to give Mamata Banerjee a strong platform, a playground where she is at her best as a street fighter, as that kind of a politician, rallied opposition forces around her. Do you think it's a bit of a pair pe kulhadi?
Actually, I would argue exactly to the contrary, Tamanna. Exactly to the contrary. And I would argue and show you how I think that the Trinamool has shot itself in the foot. Let's go one by one. 25 lakh people's money, 40,000 crores. Did she stand for the poor and the investigation leading to its logical end? Or did she stand with the officer who is preventing the CBI, which is directed by the Honorable Supreme Court, in investigating it. People are intelligent, they can see through. The dharna was for what? Was it for a rape victim, for the poor people, for their money coming back, for the investigation reaching? No. It was Rajiv Kumar should not meet the CBI officers. He should not cooperate with them. And which the Supreme Court has today announced. That's why there's desperation to call it a victory. Because somehow this truth is going to percolate sooner or later to the ground. Mamata ji, in terms of support, of course she's a tall leader. She's got an unprecedented mandate in West Bengal. But the BJP, look at the vote share, it's increasing massively. Today the BJP, from a non-existent player, is actually the main challenger to the Trinamool. And the Trinamool recognizes that. That's why our cadre is attacked, even murdered. Our leaders are not given permission for their helicopters to land. Chief ministers, our national president Amit Bhai Shah, is not allowed to campaign there. Who do you prevent? Who do you try to stop? Only one you see as a potential threat. And the irony is, West Bengal, the people realize it. There is a free entry, a welcome entry for Rohingyas and Bangladeshis and illegal immigrants. But police officers can't go there to do their job. This irony won't be lost before the people. I don't know if this is what politically, and you're talking of the stage, go through, see Mr. Jaitley's article today. He's pointed out, she's tried to probably create that space for herself as being the tallest. It won't be lost among the other leaders in the alliance getting together. And who came out in the first instance? All those who are worried that the CBI is investigating them, or other agencies are investigating them for scams or alleged commissions or omissions of financial impropriety.
Okay.
So I would argue to the contrary. I think the BJP is on the track of a great victory in West Bengal.
Nilanjan, your response to the way Nalin Kohli has broken down the political situation?
I mean, I think that's what we call a dodge. But look, I don't think there's. I think this is fairly incontrovertible. I think even if you talk to people in the BJP, they would tell you that this blew up in a way that they didn't expect. Look, you know, we can talk about who's winning and who's losing based on the merits of the case, and I believe that there are merits of the case on all sides. We can talk about it from the standpoint of spokespersons from TMC and BJP, but we understand that publicly what this has looked like for the last few weeks. And, you know, having a CBI come in on something that looks like a secret raid, getting bamboozled, getting jailed by the state police, having Mamata start a dharna, right? This clearly doesn't look good for the BJP, and I don't think anybody thinks it does. Again, this is outside of whatever level of malfeasance has taken place in the chit fund scams, which I actually agree with. I mean, I think there's a lot that needs to be investigated, and people need to be brought to book. But purely as a political game, this seems to be something that got away from the BJP. They took a bit of a risk. It's a risk that would have paid off had they been able to nab Rajiv Kumar in this sort of, you know, fly-by-night sort of let's bring a bunch of CBI people in, but it sort of went the other way. And I think there's no doubt what the average person in India is seeing and how they see this, how this is played out.
Well, I think, you know, we won't know who's really gained from this politically till votes are cast in the election. But there is a sense that the left and the Congress have moved even further behind in the game for West Bengal because of a sharp polarization between these two sides. Mamata and Modi both gaining. We'll have to wait and watch. Thank you so much to all of you for joining us on the show today. It's a pause on Mamata's dharna for now, but the stakes have only gotten higher, especially as far as opposition unity goes. This whole narrative of an attack on federalism will definitely continue with even more vigor up until the general elections.